A middle-aged police officer chasing a much younger and faster carpenter, and the whole village is watching. Sounds like typical Sunday League madness, but it's not, because that carpenter is 18-year-old Miroslav Klose. At that age, elite players are usually already inside famous academies, making debuts, winning trophies, sometimes even winning the World Cup. But Klose was working with wood during the day, playing in 7th Division on weekends. One coach even told him to quit football completely, and somehow that same player would become one of the most feared strikers in all of football, and the greatest goalscorer the World Cup has ever seen. So, what happened? From carpenter to World Cup top scorer, this is the story of Miroslav Klose. Miroslav Klose's entire football story almost ended before it even began. In 1997, he played for a tiny club called SG Blaubach-Diedelkopf in Germany's 7th Division. But the thing is, he wasn't 9 years old, he was almost 20. And he had to go through something that most of us know all too well. Think back, at some point, when you were a kid, you were absolutely convinced that one day you were going to play professional football. You had the skills, you had the mentality, and definitely the celebration. But suddenly, there was this moment you realized, damn, maybe there's levels to this. In Klose's case, a coach pulled him aside and told him that he should find a real job, that he would never make it as a pro. For most players, that's the moment the dream dies. And to be fair, Klose didn't look like the future of football. Just a random dude from the Palatinate Forest, a rural region that at first sight is mostly famous for wine, but on second glance, home of several World Cup legends. At that point, Klose was basically invisible to professional football, and already older than most prospects. But he was obsessed with improving. Always the first player on the pitch at training, and the last one to leave. Step by step, the carpenter built his way up. At 20 years old, Klose left his hometown club and started making a name for himself at 5th Division side FC Homburg. Well, their reserve team. Then came the summer of 1999 and the opportunity that changed everything. Kaiserslautern noticed him and brought him in. Klose wasn't immediately thrust into Bundesliga spotlight, but it was, finally, an opening into professional football. Klose played in the second team, not exactly delivering crazy numbers, but he did enough to impress his coach, who quickly recommended Klose to the first team. And there it was. April 15th, 2000, Miroslav Klose's Bundesliga debut, with his first goal coming early in the following season. Slowly, the football world started noticing. But even after reaching the Bundesliga, people didn't fully believe in Klose. He wasn't the fastest or most technically gifted striker. He also wasn't known for scoring screamers. Ironically, Klose himself once admitted that shooting was never really his thing, which makes what happened next even more ridiculous. By the early 2000s, Klose had turned into one of Germany's deadliest strikers, scoring 16 goals in his breakout season. And now the world started realizing just how good this man really was. A true master in the box, with unmatched aerial ability, elite positioning and instinct. That kind of pure number 9 we don't really get to see anymore. In the following years, Klose became the Bundesliga's top scorer at Werder Bremen with 25 goals and 13 assists in just 26 games, won domestic titles with FC Bayern München, and became a fan favourite at Lazio. Also, thanks to his iconic front flip celebration, of course. But club football was only part of his story. Because when people think about Miroslav Klose today, they mostly think about one thing: the World Cup. His first match for Germany already felt symbolic. Germany was struggling. Klose came off the bench, then scored a header to win the game. Afterwards, he said, "It doesn't get better than this anymore. Boy, do we have news for you." It started at the 2002 World Cup. Germany entered the tournament without high expectations, but suddenly a still relatively unknown Klose exploded onto the global stage. He scored 5 goals, every single one a header. Germany reached the final but lost to Brazil thanks to 2 goals from Ronaldo, the only player who scored even more goals than Klose back then. It marked the beginning of a legendary duel and a chase for World Cup glory, Gerd Müller's record of most World Cup goals. Klose had 5, a long way to go, but the race was on. 4 years later, on home soil, Klose became even better. This time he won the Golden Boot over Ronaldo and became the first player ever to score 5 goals in consecutive World Cups. But Ronaldo, with his 3 goals, was the one to break the record. Now Ronaldo was the man to beat and 15 the number to chase. Next up, South Africa 2010. By the end of the tournament, Klose added 4 more goals to his name, level with Müller's record and just 1 behind Ronaldo. Which meant 2 things. First, now everyone knew this Klose guy was legit. And second, Ronaldo's record was in real danger. But Klose's career was also slowly coming to an end. He had one final World Cup left in him, one last try. Brazil 2014. A goal against Ghana tied Ronaldo's record. Suddenly, Klose was just 1 goal away from immortality, and just a few days later, that's exactly what happened. Semi-final, Germany versus Brazil, 23rd minute, shot, save, rebound, goal. Klose had done it, his 16th World Cup goal. And it couldn't have been scripted any better. At 36, the carpenter, who was once told to quit football entirely, had just broken the World Cup scoring record on the biggest stage in the most shocking game in World Cup history, against the most decorated football nation on earth, on their own soil. It was the perfect moment, and incredibly fitting for a player who built his legacy quietly through consistency rather than hype, whose career was basically over before it began, and who said that he couldn't really shoot. Today, Miroslav Klose is known for being the World Cup record scorer and the all-time top goal scorer for the German national team, all despite not scoring his first top-flight goal until the age of 22. But it's not only his scoring that has caused his peers to respect him like they did and still do. It's also his character and his honesty. In 2012, Klose was playing for Lazio and basically did the Maradona. He scored using his hand. The referee allowed the goal, but instead of celebrating, Klose immediately admitted the handball himself. The goal was cancelled. Lazio went on to lose that match, but Klose walked off with something far more valuable: the respect of the entire football world. And later, his honesty also earned him a Fair Play award. His second, by the way. Lazio supporters once described Klose as an example of professionalism, reliability, modesty and honesty, who should be protected by UNESCO. And that perfectly sums up Miroslav Klose. Because football usually celebrates the loudest stars, the biggest talents, and the most spectacular players. Klose was none of those things. That's why his story feels different from most legends. He didn't go from dishwasher to millionaire, but from carpenter to World Cup record scorer. A true Bundesliga miracle.